everyone. Welcome to Thursday Thoughts with Pastor Pat. I am so grateful that you're watching these videos. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I enjoy doing them. This coming Sunday is June 9th, 2024. It's the third Sunday of Pentecost. The scripture is from Mark 3. This is the passage where Jesus asks, "Who are my mothers and who are my brothers?" Implying that the family of God is now expanding, because Jesus says, "It is the people who do my will and the will of my Father. Those are my mothers and brothers." And the idea of expanding the family of God is evident in the practice of what is called radical hospitality. This is the second of 5 practices of fruitful congregations that I'll be preaching on in June. And radical hospitality is actually the first chapter of this book, 5 Practices of Fruitful Congregations. And he puts it first because he feels like, Robert Schnase, the author, feels like all the other practices kind of flow from this idea of radical hospitality, how we treat our visitors, how we treat essentially anybody who's not already a member of our congregation. Radical hospitality, super important. And I've seen it at work because this is also my favorite of the 5 practices as well. I feel very strongly about it. I'm going to have to whittle down all of my thoughts on radical hospitality to contain them in a 15-minute sermon. But for today, instead of going into what is radical hospitality and what to do for radical hospitality, which I'll be doing on Sunday, I thought today I would talk about 5 don'ts. So I'm going to do kind of a David Letterman top 10 list, but instead a David Letterman top 5 list of things not to say to visitors. So number 5 of things never to say to visitors. What are you doing here? Not a good thing to say to a visitor. Again, it's one of those things that we say that maybe it has good intentions. We're trying to find out because we would like to know, well, what brought you here? Why did you choose St. John's? But saying, what are you doing here implies that maybe they don't belong. Maybe they're not that wanted here. If they're that surprised that I'm here, maybe I shouldn't be here. So not a great thing to say to a visitor. Instead, and just ask them, how did you find out about us? Is a nice way of asking that same question. Number 4, top four of the 5 things never to say to a visitor. The service has already begun. So what? If the service has already begun and you're late, I imagine if I was running late and the service has already begun, you'd probably let me in. We should also let in visitors as well, too. It's not, the gate doesn't close and lock. Right as worship. And if the door is locked, we have someone there to let people in. But letting them know that the service has already begun might seem like it's true. But it also implies to that person that they're being a nuisance, and that they're disturbing things, and they don't want to feel that way at all. So that's something we shouldn't say. Number 3, and I've heard this one frequently, is your spouse with you? That's especially awkward if they don't have a spouse. If they're a single parent, or if they're just a single person coming on their own. Not a good question to ask. It's a little personal, and we can find out their family situation much later down the road. So don't ask them that. Don't put them on the spot. That makes them feel very awkward. Number 2. Now we're starting to get into some more practical things of not to say. Number 2, you'll have to step over these people to get to your seat. Now, some people say this in their body language. Someone's trying to find a seat, a visitor, and you may think you're doing the right thing by turning your body like this, and making them crawl over you to their seat. So a much nicer thing to say or do is get up, move in a little bit, and invite them to sit on the aisle. Make it easy for them, not harder. The number 1 thing to say, never to say to a visitor, and I'm sure some of you probably have guessed this, but it's something that gets said at churches everywhere. You're sitting in my pew. Don't say that. Even if you're okay with not moving them, even if you say you're sitting in my pew, but I can sit somewhere else. Don't even mention that you're sitting in their pew. First of all, you don't have a pew. We all have pews, and that's any of them that are in the sanctuary. That's your assigned seat somewhere in the sanctuary, or maybe it's in the fellowship hall where you're more comfortable sitting. Um, they're everybody's seats. There are seats. They're everybody's. No one has a special seat with their name on it. It's already very uncomfortable for someone to come and worship and be a visitor when they don't know anybody. It can be awkward and weird just to find a seat in general. And then when you make them get up and move again, you're making them feel like second class citizens. You're making them feel unwanted. And you're also doubling down on the chances you'll never see them again. So, top 5 things never to say to a visitor. Check out Sunday morning service and Sunday morning sermon, and you'll hear about all the things that we can be doing and should be doing to practice radical hospitality to our visitors and to our community. Until then, take care and God bless. Bye-bye.